I'm Panos Kotzathanasis, and this is Asian Movie Pulse Talks. Today I'm here with Adriana, Rosati, Rouven, Linnarz, and Zaveri, and we're gonna talk about Hirokazu Koreeda's Monster, the film that won the Best Script Award in Cannes. Okay, a lot of people say it's a masterpiece, but let's see what we think. Okay, let's start with the synopsis a bit. Rouven?
All right, I'll try my best with summing up the film, which is divided into three parts, if you can say, each of which can focuses on one of the main characters. The first one tells the story of a young mother whose son called Minato is comes home and complains, or she sees signs that that he was violated at school by his teacher. He was hit at school by his teacher. He also tells him that he actually humiliated him, saying that he's not a human, he's a pig, and he has a pig's brain. And she starts complaining at the school, tries to get them to do something against the teacher by the name of Hori, who starts to apologize. The school starts to apologize, but she actually wants more. She wants this person to be fired from the school grounds. The second part of the story focuses on the teacher who has been in town for quite a while. He's, if I'm not mistaken, the gym teacher of the students, and I think he has another subject, but I'm not too sure about it. And you can actually see that some of the things that have been said about him are actually not as let's say not the version that the mother believes. And in the final part, you actually get two perspective, or three perspective, if you like. The perspective of the principal, who has recently lost her grandchild, if I'm not mistaken, to a very tragic accident, and we get to see the perspective of the two children. First, Minato, and the person who he is accused of having bullied at his school, a child named Yori, who tells him about this, who has told or given him this idea of having a pig's brain and to place this game of who is the monster, which he has learned from his father. I know that this is a synopsis with lots of holes, lots of things that I don't want to get into detail, because I have a feeling that this is a film when you say too much, you're also giving away too much, and you spoil the whole thing, which I don't want to do, because I'm not too sure.
We're gonna spoil it completely. Don't worry about that. We're gonna talk about the ending. We're gonna
I'm
talk
just
about
gonna have a
everything.
look out for my fellow German listeners who haven't had the pleasure of watching Monster outside of your festivals.
Okay, all right.
But all right, my
Yeah, I
other
think we have enough, Rouven. I think we're good.
pals will spoil it for you.
Yeah. Don't worry about it. Okay, so all right. So the film won the script, as we mentioned, in Cannes. But why do you think that is, Rhythm? What is that made the script so great? Let's say.
Firstly, is this three-part structure. I think the way that he explores how not everything is as it seems. Not just in the first or the second, but even in the third part. That there is some truth to what has been said, but obviously it's not the whole truth. And as we go on into each perspective of the characters, those layers, they get peeled one by one, and we get the whole picture. But in addition to that as well, it's the many themes that the screenplay takes on as well. About the children and their lives in their schools, at home as well with their friends, about Japanese society as a whole as well. It has some very pointed things to say, and I think it all just gels so very well in the screenplay, you know, to the point that by the time you get to the final perspective, which is from the point of view of the children, you are just fully engrossed with the story and with everything that's going on, not just with the children, but with the teacher, with the mother, and everybody around them.
Adriana?
I enjoy very much the script. We're talking about the script that I won in Cannes, and with this point of view structure, and I think that they deserve it, and I saw the Sakamoto, the screenwriter, has done lots of television and TV dramas, and I can actually see his ability in capturing the attention and create some sort of cliffhanger, because at the end of every point of view, it's a bit like an episode of a whole story. And so it creates some expectation for the next, and so it's very well structured, and at the same time it ticks all the boxes of Koreeda's film, all the themes he likes, you know, fathers, dysfunctional families, death, children, and everything.
Rouven?
Apart from the things that Adriana and Rhythm said, I also think what to me rings or really resonates was the way he describes these characters. For example, the mother, or let's say the teacher. These are people that I believe with all their flaws, because they are not perfect. I mean, the mother who tries her best at believing her child, and becomes completely, let's say, encapsulated in this whole narrative of her son being bullied, while not taking a look at what could actually be also true about it. And also the teacher who's trying his best to gain a certain status and uphold the truth, while he is barraged by his superiors, by the principal and his colleagues, to not say the truth, and actually just apologize to make things go away, which actually makes things a lot worse for himself, for the children, and for the parents. I find this in combination with the structure that Rhythm just explained, I find this quite cleverly done.
And
I think I sorry, also just wanted to mention the title of the film. In each three structures that we mentioned, the way that the changing definition of what a monster really is, that is something that Yuji Sakamoto has so perfectly portrayed. He in the first one, you think there's a certain person and they are definitely the monster in the title, but then you go to the second perspective and you're like, okay, hang on a minute, and then you get to the third one, and the lines are very blurred over there. So that's another thing that really stuck out to me while watching the film.
Okay.
Talking about the title, I noticed in French the film is called L'Innocence, The Innocence, and I thought how bizarre this, very different the title. I thought it was very, very French.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, I think that we have like a Rashomon effect again, and a type of Rashomon, let's say. But I think the great thing about the script is that every new perspective that we see brings us closer to the truth and reveals more things about what is happening. And essentially, the way the script is structured in this kind of style also makes a point to makes a very, let's say, harsh comment about how the grown-ups really don't know what is happening with their children, because each perspective shows us exactly that. Like the parents have no clue, the school principal has no clue, the teachers have no clue. And in order to understand what is happening with the children, essentially we need to hear it from the children themselves. This is the only way we can understand them. And I thought that the script structure also makes this comment, which is what really impressed me. And yeah, actually, I would like to talk a bit about that. What do you think about this whole concept that the grown-ups don't know children, like that parents don't know their children and the teachers don't know their students? So what do you think about that, Adriana?
Well, yeah, this is something that I noticed as well, and especially I noticed that as the story progress, it become less and less dramatic. It start in a very bleak mood. I thought it was sort of unusual for a Koreeda film not having not even a blip of not comedy, but slight and because they start with the point of view of the mother that seems to be the bleakest and the more worried, at the point that she hints, often to the idea that he could commit suicide. There is a scene where she enter a room, like a teacher room, where the boy is, and we see an open window, and immediately we and the mothers think they jumped, and it's so bleak. It was really hard, breaking. But the more the more the story progresses and then become lighter, going towards the point of view of the children, and I thought it was a very sort of positive, optimistic point of view, as if the children in a way can make it, but all the parents and teacher have all this sort structure that make them worry too much, and they have all the other peers and to worry about, while I don't know. I thought, yeah, I thought that was the key that the film wanna give,
Mm-hmm. Rhythm?
Yeah, I mean, as just taking it slightly out of the perspective of the film, as a parent, I often wonder that myself, whether do I really know the sort of stuff that goes on in my children's school and in their lives, outside of whatever they come and tell us at home. So if seeing something like that in the film, wherein the mother thinks that one thing has happened and it's something else entirely that's going on in the school. It's kind of scary, to sort of have that visualized in the film as you see it. But I think that's very much a part of reality to an extent, for a lot of the students and the parents and teachers. So it's definitely a mirror of a sorts, in the sense that what Koreeda and the screenplay by Sakamoto has shown us in this film could very well be the reality for a lot of students.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Rouven, since you are a teacher, what do you think about that?
Thanks for doing my job for me. I was going to say, I mean, coming from a slightly different perspective. I'm not a parent, but I am a teacher, and I was looking at this specific environment. Normally, when I watch films, because it's my free time, I try to stay away from school as much as possible, which is why I normally avoid everything that has to do with, let's say, high school dramas and something like that. What I find interesting in this way of looking at the teacher specifically is that we are currently in a culture. I'm not sure if it's the same with India, Greece, or the UK, where you are in a situation where your authority as a teacher is constantly being, let's say, thrown into the turmoil of having to prove everything and for everybody. Everything that you are saying, that you are doing, is under a close microscope at the same time, and you have to prove everything. And I'm trying to think of, and this Monster got me thinking of whether this is actually a good way that you have, that proving everything is there, and by not telling the truth, is it not actually making things worse? We're currently living in a society, and I think Koreeda's film shows that, where you're trying to avoid saying directly what you mean or saying what has happened, and tell a half truth, and or just apologize and make things even worse as a consequence. And at the same time, I thought, which I sometimes see when I'm looking at when you have a discussion with a student who has done something wrong, presumably has done something wrong, and the mother and the father, and you notice this certain disconnect between the father and the mother and their children. Whereas the son is completely, or the daughter is completely in their own world, whereas um, the parent is in their own world, completely tries to get across his or her sense of justice. And this is something that I took away, especially from the first two episodes in that film. And I find that really well done, and I might say really well observed.
Okay, okay. Well, okay, I'm not a teacher or a parent, but I think it is very difficult nowadays to know anything about anyone. It seems like children in particular, like they can live a whole life within the internet, that it will be probably very difficult for parents or teachers or anyone for that matter to know what they are doing, how they are doing it, or where they are doing it. It seems to me like the only thing both teachers and parents can do is damage control, probably, then prevention has become almost impossible. But at the same time, I feel it is kind of a mistake. It's also showed in the movie that none of them really sits the children down and asks them what exactly is happening, or even are willing to listen, which particularly in the case of the second child, which one is the smallest one? Like the one who's
Yori.
bullied?
Yori.
Yori, yes. So
Yeah.
it's obvious that his father does not want to listen to him at all, which is essentially the biggest problem that they both have. So I feel maybe there is something there, that maybe that is the point, one of the points the movie makes, that we need to really listen to the children, at least at that age, then, where they are still speaking. And
I think this idea of protection is actually this idea of protection that the film shows is actually that you have a sense that they are protecting their children from, let's say, something that is a threat that they imagine or that they don't understand. For example, this scene, which I find possibly the best one in the film, which is later, let's say, revealed to have a completely different context, when the mother sees or tries to get into contact with her son Minato, who is in this tunnel screaming, "Who is the monster?" and trying to play this game, and she doesn't understand it. And but she doesn't understand it. That is why I have to protect my child from it. Whereas the real danger, which is coming, as you pointed out, from the father of Yori, is completely, I wouldn't say ignored, but not as real, or not as talked about comes completely unnoticed until the, let's say, last part. It's something like the fire that is at the beginning of each and every story. Everybody sees it, everybody notices it, but nobody really talks about it.
Okay, okay. And okay, but because we're talking about this lack of communication, I also feel that for the Japanese people is even a worse concept, because there is this thing about them that they are not very eager to share their feelings or to communicate their thoughts. It's like this is how they are essentially. So I guess this makes the problem even bigger. I don't know, Rhythm, do you agree?
I agree. I very much agree with that part. And certainly talking in terms of the characters, I think Minato suffers the most with this aspect. You know, he clearly likes being with Yori, likes his company, likes talking to him, likes playing with him. Uh, but he cannot tell his other classmates in fear of being alienated like Yuri is, you know. Also with his mother, you know, he just cannot share, you know, what is really going on in his life for whatever reason. Maybe he thinks she's gonna get him to stop going to school or stop talking to Yuri, get him to change school. I don't really know. But, you know, he just can't get himself to say that. Even with Hori Sensei, for that matter, you know, Hori is trying to be friendly, trying to understand what is going on in Minato's life, but he cannot bring himself to say it. Hell, he cannot even tell himself, you know, what he feels, what he really feels about Yori. As we find out much later on in the film, you know, he's in denial about you know, the real reason as to why he's trying to be away from Yori. So it's very fascinating, kind of sad as well, the whole aspect of it. But as you said, it's very much a societal problem, I would assume, that just carries on generation to generation.
Adriana?
Yeah, I think sharing the feelings is something that creates a perspective and a context of a problem or of something, and the film is very good showing the importance of this context and the right perspective. And I also think that is very relevant at the moment, this filming, because social media for many people, for lots of people, is the only window through which they see some facts or some people, and so they're completely removed from the context, and it doesn't create a desire to know the bigger picture of things, and especially in things like bullyism, for its nature and for the demographic of the people involved, is directly linked to social media.
Rouven?
So,
interestingly enough, before I watched it, I was watching a Japanese classic, which is Ozu's Good Morning. And I had a feeling that the two kids in Good Morning who reject the sort of phrases, the empty phrases of the adults, and saying we won't speak at all, and create their own secret language of gestures. I had a feeling that even though Ozu's film is a comedy, I had a feeling that Koreeda is basically doing a more tragic or dramatic take on this very premise, which is this, as I said, disconnect between the children and the adult, and also about how children try to find their own ways of dealing with the world of the adult, which I find is quite interestingly done, especially when it comes to issues, and since we're spoiling the film, issues of there is something different about this boy which doesn't really fit into, let's say, a conformist society, which Ozu portrays, but also or Koreeda portrays in a certain way, which he uses, or where he uses this idea of the monster, which traditionally is always the idea of the other, the thing that you don't understand or you don't want to discuss because it hurts your sense of safety, it hurts your sense of security. And I find that quite well done in Monster. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, regarding that thing, spoilers. Okay, the film in Cannes won the Queer Palm, so it's not exactly, it becomes obvious what's happening there. But okay, but since we mentioned it, I felt that was also another great trait of the script that this twist, when it comes close to the end, it's completely unexpected, right? Because you have all different perspectives. Each one presents a number of twists, but in the story. But particularly this one is essentially shocking when you see it, particularly from the one side. You don't expect it, which I feel was pretty great. But to move a bit beyond that, how do you feel about Yori? Because I feel like this is a true hero, right? He gets bullied, his best friend or what is it constantly disappoints him and even is very bad with him, but he perseveres, he doesn't whine, he doesn't say anything. His father is awful to him. But okay, I think he's great and heroic, but I was wondering, do you find this character realistic? Really?
No, I
Adriana, please.
no, sorry, I didn't want to jump in, but it's something that I noticed. The Yori, it's a lovely character because it's so positive and he's always got a smile. The children at school do all sorts of things to him, and he always, and I mean, it's a very likable character. Bit cheeky for maybe as a character because, but it's. I've been wondering if it was. I don't know. I found it a bit unreal, but not very believable, especially when the story progresses and you see how much it goes through, especially at home. There is that horrific scene where Minato found in a home alone, completely beaten up, and it's horrible. But Yori has always got a smile in his face, so I thought that there was a very likable character, but not so believable, and I was wondering if it was done on purpose or I don't know. I've been puzzled by this.
Really?
Yeah, before I say anything, I just want to say that I love Yori. I love him so much.
No, it is.
He is so adorable, so fantastically acted by him. Well, speaking about the realistic aspect of it, again, I am not exactly sure, as Adriana said, how realistic it is. But I would like to think that, we have seen, especially in Japanese and Korean cinema, way too many films about bullying, and when the way that the psyche or the psychology of the bullied progresses, towards a very dark sort of dark sort of place for them. I think this was quite refreshing to see as an audience. And I also like to think like the scene where he's locked in the bathroom, for example, and then he just in the bathroom stall, and then he just starts the whole kaibutsu game by himself. I feel it's the jolliness of his character, or the playfulness of him even in those times, is him sort of trying to have an escape from this darkness around him. As we see that he's facing a lot of terrible things at home as well. The scene where Minato finds him in the bathroom just broke my heart. I just said, please, please, please don't let it be what it feels like. So he this is something that he goes through not just at school but at home as well. And he's at a very young age. Yori is. So I feel that this could be something that he has developed within himself. He's a single child, so he plays by himself. Doesn't have any imaginary friends or anything. But I feel that it's something that he has developed as an escape from the darkness around him, and I think that's kind of beautiful. And it's I think Sakamoto and Koreeda together portray it so very well. And of course with the actor as well, whose name I unfortunately forget right now, but yeah, he did a beautiful job in portraying that as well.
Rouven?
So yeah, realistic, I am not exactly sure, but I would like to believe that, you know, there are children out there who, regardless of being bullied, do tend to lean towards this sort of an attitude.
Rouven?
Well, since as a teacher, I unfortunately had the business of dealing with people who were victims of bullies or who were bullies themselves, and I gotta say that I kind of disagree with the fact that this is unrealistic. Whether it's believable, that's a different issue. But this whole idea, this whole question that he's about to ask, that he has a pig's brain, he's not human. And he's trying not to be the other person. Yuri is kind of making a brave face, even though everything that is in his environment, his parents, his school, or at least his classmates are terrible towards him, and he's just trying to keep up this brave face, not being this monster, not being this person that the other people see in him, and not giving into this negativity around him. This is something that you actually see quite often in people who have been victims of bullying. It's actually quite hard to figure out who has been sometimes the victim of bullying, and it's quite easy to figure out who's the bully. So that's at least from my experience, and I think this is what Koreeda drives home. The one thing that I do have something of a problem with is this final reveal, because that came out of the blue completely for me, and that's something I didn't quite believe. That was something that I really didn't need at the end, to be honest. This whole revelation that this is about, I mean, we have already spoiled, this is about how it deals with otherness, how it deals with homosexuality. This was a topic in this context that you can make a whole film about, and many Japanese and Asian filmmakers have already done that. But this at the end, I mean, come on.
Okay, all right. And okay, since Rhythm already talked about the acting, the actor's name is Hinata Hiragi. And so let's talk a bit more about the acting. Okay, we already know the casting is pretty great. We have Sakura Ando there, which in my opinion is the best Japanese actress at the moment. I think so. And Eita Nagayama is the main teacher. We have Soya Kurokawa as Minato. In general, what do you think about the acting, Rhythm?
Speaking for all three stories, you know, within I mean, you've got Sakura Ando, so working again with Koreeda, so you expect a good performance. But within, I think the first 13 or 14 minutes of the film starting, I was like, yeah, I'm probably watching one of my favorite performances of the year. You know, she is so good in this film. Oh my God. By the time she gets to the principal's office for the first or the second meeting, she had me floored, man. You know, she is such a good actress with the expressions, the emotions that she brings out, you know, usually are amazing. And this film is no different as well. Eita, who plays the holy sensei, again, he's an actor who, even before seeing Monster, I had seen him in a few stuff, but I hadn't really sort of like registered that, you know, this is the actor who was in XYZ film, and then I'm seeing him again. But by pure coincidence, I saw him in Monster. I loved his performance in Monster. You know, the duality between his character, which he brings in the first perspective and in his own perspective, you know, is wonderful. when he eats that candy in the first meeting, I wanted to punch him, you know. So yeah, it's beautiful. But then I saw him in like by pure coincidence again. I saw the very next film that I saw after Monster was Toshiaki Toyoda's Monsters Club, and you know that also features him in it. And a couple of days later, I saw the foreign duck, the native duck, and God in a Coin Locker. And again, it had Aether as well. And he is such a chameleon of an actor, you know. He all three very, very different performances. But Monster was easily my favorite of the three. But yeah, amazing actor. And I think I will probably run out of superlatives talking about the two child actors. You know, it's a given that this is a Koreeda film. He's working with children once again, so it's going to be amazing. But I think after Nobody Knows, which I rewatched not too long ago, this is by far my favorite performances by children in a Koreeda film. Both the boys have Minato Kurokawa, particularly, you know, he has shown so much maturity with his character. You know, he has such a up-down journey to go through, and I think Kurokawa, he does such a damn fine job with it. Something that even a more mature or even a more you know, experienced actor could have troubles with. So you know, full credits to him. And Hiraga, I have already said what I needed to say. I love Yori and I love his performance.
Okay, Adriana.
Well, what can I say? he says all. But apart from the main character, they were all excellent. I really appreciated Yuko Tanaka, which is the actress, is a veteran actress and that plays the school principal. And yeah, she's an amazing actress, and she was amazing in Okita's Ora Ora, where she carries the whole film on her shoulders, and in Shiraishi's One Night, and she's I think I like her very much because she's very good at alternating some very sad expressions and dramatic expression with sudden bursts of sarcasm, and the character is in this film, in Monster, is quite a complex character. It's left a bit open, or because you know, there are all those gossips about her. The film doesn't really tell you in the end if they're true or not, but she's got a nice twist. Yeah, and yeah, I love the actress, and of course all the others.
Rouven?
Well, since Rhythm has said the majority, I'm just gonna say one thing about the children, which I find were quite interesting. All the scenes that are taking place in this abandoned train cart, where they basically building their own utopia. I think at one point they even say it. They built their own world, their home out of their home, especially for Yori, whose home is sort of a broken home, and he actually builds his own there. All of these scenes, if I would tell this to you without you having watched the film, this sounds sort of corny, sounds sort of fantastic. However, I think what Koreeda pulls off, again, like he does in Nobody Knows, is that it actually isn't corny at all. These two child actors do make the impossible of making something which feels like a complete fairy tale, actually a corny fairy tale, but actually give it something that is actually quite touching. I think that is, I mean, it's not just the performance; it's all the other elements as well, the colors, lighting, and many other many other features. But the performances especially turn this into something that is quite touching, that is quite emotional and not corny at all.
Well, I think
with
you
the
said
children,
please.
With the children, I also want to mention that when we compare it to the other performances by children in a Koreeda film, I think these two had a much more difficult task because obviously, as most people might know, that this is not based on a screenplay that's by Koreeda himself. This is, as we mentioned, by somebody else, the first film that he's done based on a screenplay written by someone else since his debut film. So there was an interview with Koreeda where he mentions where somebody asked him about how he deals with children and their acting, and he said that with most of the films, I just like to give them space, and he gives them a broad idea of what needs to happen, and he just lets the children do their own thing, and that's how most of the performances come out naturally. With this one, he says it was a lot different because he had the script from Sakamoto, and he wanted to be as faithful to the script as possible, because he says everything that needed to be in the film was right there on the script. So for this one, the two children had to actually go through a lot of readings, a lot of rehearsals, get the lines just perfect. There was no improvisation or anything for the most part, So I think in that sense, these two kids had the most difficult job of the children in Koreeda film, and they pulled it off. They pulled it off, and how?
And because I also felt that the roles, particularly of Hinata Hiragi, is very physical. He gets beaten a lot, and that cannot be easy for a child to perform. But he did it excellently. So yeah, I don't know how these things goes when you're shooting. You have someone throw him on the floor like 5 times until you get the best shot. I don't know if there is any kind of sadism involved, but okay, the result was perfect. So I guess everything worked out at the end. And but since you mentioned nobody knows, how do you think it compares to Yuya Yagira's performance there, the two boys here? Really?
That is such a difficult question. Oh my God. I think, especially with Kurokawa, I feel his performance, as I said, his character is a lot more complex than Yuya Yagira's, so not taking anything away from Yagira, because that was a performance for a lifetime. But certainly with Kurokawa, I feel that his character was a lot more complexly written, and so in that sense, what he pulled off is just as commendable, if not more. So I really don't want to say that his is better than Yuya Yagira's. If you ask me to choose between the two, and I say this having very recently rewatched Nobody Knows as well, I do feel that his performance it ever so slightly tips it for me.
Rouven?
Again, difficult question. And it's been a while since I've watched Nobody Knows. I've tried to rediscover Koreeda by finally watching the BFI set that came out a few years ago. It's been such a long time. I can't really say, but I don't want to shy out from your question. So I still think Nobody Knows is maybe not just maybe if not the better performance, I do think it's a better film.
Adriana?
Okay, I've seen Nobody Knows well a long time ago, and found very difficult now to compare. Also, I don't think it's fair to comparing the actors, and I don't know. There are many good children actors in Koreeda's film always. Even in Shoplift, in After the Storm, in Still Walking, in many. So. And every film is per se. So I'm shying away of from your question, but
yeah, and since we started talking about other Koreeda films, where do you think Monster fits in? Let's just say top 5, top 10. I don't know. What do you think? Really?
Yeah, for me, I think it would be top 5. I'm still I am on a journey of rewatching all of his feature films. So we'll know 100% only after I'm done. But as of right now, off the top of my head, just thinking about the films that he's done, likely top 5 for sure.
Rouven?
I mean, it's definitely better than Broker. I gotta say this. So I'm not sure how many films has he done, by the way, altogether.
16. This is the 16th film.
16. Then I would say around the middle. I think that there are some films where he also points at, let's say, some issues within society. I mean, for example, we can talk a lot about Nobody Knows, but I recently rediscovered and watched for the first time Barbarossa, which I think is a much, much better film. There is so much left out in the open in that film, which you can interpret in many, many ways. And the central performance is so strong. I have a hard time actually saying that this one, We're Still Walking, I think are my top films that I think are the best films that he has done.
Adriana?
I wouldn't put in my personal ranking. I wouldn't put it in. I enjoyed it, but I wouldn't put it in the top 5. Maybe within the top 10, but no, not the 5. Yeah, sort of midway. I appreciated this different narrative, but I don't know. There are films that I like more of Koreeda, more traditional.
Yeah. Well, I think that Maborosi, Nobody Knows, Still Walking, Like Father, Like Son, and
Like Father and Son, yeah.
Shoplifters are better. So for me, it's like maybe 5th or 6th, like somewhere there. I think I've seen them all. Yeah, and yeah, more or less. But yeah. Okay. It's definitely better than Broker and I think The Third Murder and After the Storm. But okay. Since we are talking about that, and let's close with a negative. Since we are film critics, let's just not say good things. So what's the problem with the film? Because for me, once more, there is this huge lagging time frame between the ending and the middle of the film. That's about maybe half an hour even, that nothing particular is happening. And I feel like I got bored at that point until the end. After a point, I think between the middle of the second story and the last part of the third story, I was a bit bored, I have to say. And okay, at least we don't have a scene by the sea at the end, which is great for a Japanese film. Yeah, we avoided that riff this time, but this lagging, I think it's still there, which for me makes it a bit worse than the rest of the films I mentioned. I don't know about you, Rouven.
I mean, as I said, I agree with you, by the way, that this is that with the late Koreeda, especially around Shoplifters, I'm not sure if it started there or if it started earlier, but he also has this structure where he has a certain story and adds to the story, which doesn't necessarily translate into I mean, it's hard to say entertainment when you're talking about a tragedy or when you talk about a drama, but it's not very exciting and it doesn't add much to the whole story, which is why I find this ending that you put this in front of me, this specific topic at the ending. Sorry, but I mean, you've talked about bullying, you've talked about violence, you've specifically domestic violence, all these sorts of things to a certain extent, and then you throw that curveball at the very last minute. I'm sorry, but I'm not buying it. And when you compare it to other things other features that he has done, where he leaves things out in the open, like in Barbarossa or even in Nobody Knows, I find this to be much more effective, much more entertaining, much more thought-provoking. because there is nothing to think of when you think of monster at the very end. Everything is more or less, I wouldn't say resolved, but at least concluded. And it's another story which deals with LGBTQ themes where it's an unhappy ending. I mean, even the character says himself, it's I will never be happy at this in the end. And yeah.
Rhythm?
I think with what Rouven said about throwing this curveball at the end, I didn't mind it as much as Rouven did, to be honest. But I do feel that a few more hints maybe, or a little bit more of exploration or expansion of that could have probably worked ever so slightly better. But again, as I said, I didn't mind it as such, to be completely honest.
I think the reason why I mind it so much is that we have seen so many stories about LGBTQ topics in Asian cinema, but also in world cinema in general. And there are so very little of them which are given a sort of attention where it has a happy ending. I mean, the prime example would be something like Brokeback Mountain, where you have a tragic ending, a tearjerker at the end. I wouldn't say that Monster is in the same vein as this, but I had the feeling that they're throwing this curveball in order to legitimize this no, I wouldn't say pessimistic, but this unhappy ending, if that makes sense.
Adriana?
Well, but first of all, I don't know, the way that Rouven was talking, it make it sound as if this film is about a LGBT story, but when there is a part of it is like bullyism, but I think that the film is a bit more about the struggle, the struggle of fitting into some models that society and peers impose to us. But anyway, apart from that, if you want to talk about negative aspect of the film, for me, my problem with this film was a bit maybe the third act that get a bit more confusing, and I don't know, at the beginning you are sort of tricked into because of the script has got this structure that we talked earlier, we are tricked a bit into expecting and to discover something new, but then I don't know, in the end I thought that the end was a bit the third part was a bit confusing and a bit left unresolved. I don't know, that for me was the problem that I had with this film, but
I mean, that's
not a huge problem.
But that's the whole thing, what you have just explained. That's my understanding of the film. You're putting it's about all these themes, or about all these topics, bullying, not fitting into society, which you've just explained. Why this curveball at the end? You don't need it. That's the thing which I find, as you've put it, confusing. Why do you need that at the end at all? If you just to legitimize a certain way to end or conclude the story. There's so much more to explore about all of the topics that you've mentioned, about bullying, what it does to people, what it does to community. Why not explore this? There's so much that you can do with this story, with these characters. You don't really need that last bit of sensation at the end, in my opinion.
Well, I think the LGBTQ aspect is there on the film from, okay, you can feel that this is something that is happening with this student, this whole effeminate attitude that it has. So I felt that this was already there. But of course, what happens in the end, yeah, it really goes a bit, I have to agree with Rouven to a point at this, but I felt that maybe, I don't know, because I don't feel the ending is sad if you see it as a romantic movie. I mean, they get together in the end. So it's a happy ending if you think about it in that regard. Like love conquers all, and I don't know what's happening. So yeah, okay, but again, it is a bit, yeah, that thing could be avoided if one of the two stayed was the only one that was, let's say, gay, homosexual. I mean, that would still work and make the comments about how these people are treated in such an environment as the Japanese school or in general. I don't think this is just about Japanese schools. So yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Does anyone want to add anything?
Not add as such, but I think we should also mention the work by Ryuichi Sakamoto in this film, which ended up being his final work in a film. So yeah, I think it's another very good element of the film, which sadly will end up being the last one that we get from the maestro.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess that's it. I think we covered enough. We've ruined the film for everyone that has not seen it. I need to make the font on this video
By the way,
contains spoilers. Sorry?
One more comment, Adriana, since you've mentioned it. The film, as I just researched, it is also called Innocence in German.
In German?
It's not just a French phenomenon. They're also calling it Die Innocence, Die Unschuld in German.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you see the problem with Europeans here. I mean, monster was not enough because a kid is being described as monster. Who knows what will happen? Let's call it innocence because it's more about kids. Political correctness for everyone. Uber alles. So okay, I guess that's it. Thank you very much for watching. We're gonna keep doing these things and have a happy new year full of Asian cinema and goodbye. Bye for everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.